Welcome to the Calm Analytics channel. I'm Boris Tizenghausen. Today is May 14th. The main news as of this minute. So Putin has once again confirmed that he has no intention of ending the war. He'll continue to act using his ghoulish terrorist methods. A petty cowardly rat is taking revenge, including for the parade humiliation and the stalemate at the front. Everything the Russians have stockpiled over these days has been launched at Ukraine. 1,560 drones have attacked Ukraine since the start of yesterday. Yesterday, drones attacked western Ukraine. Last night, Kyiv was subjected to a massive attack. Kharkiv was hit, Kremenchuk was hit. Sumy, Chornomorsk, and Bila Tserkva were also under attack. There were drones, ballistic missiles, cruise missiles, and Kinzhals. I think many in Kyiv didn't sleep tonight. It was very loud here in Kyiv. Unfortunately, there are dead and wounded. As a result of the Russian strike, part of a 9-story building in the Darnitsky district collapsed. As of this minute, 5 dead and 44 wounded are known in Kyiv. Unfortunately, there are still people under the rubble. I hope that rescuers will at least get those who are under the rubble out alive. I really hope so. In Kharkiv, 25 are wounded, and one of the dead in Kyiv is a 12-year-old girl. My condolences to those who lost loved ones today. A speedy recovery to those who were injured. You know, the most popular comment I saw today was that we should have hit the parade after all, but agreements were kept then because they agreed to exchange prisoners, 1,000 for 1,000. But apparently Putin is trying to disrupt this prisoner exchange. But it's not that simple. You know, as a rule, third countries act as guarantors in the exchange of prisoners of war. Maybe Putin won't risk screwing them over. In this specific case, in this 1,000 for 1,000 exchange, the United States acted as the guarantor. The fact that Putin is a lying and cynical coward has been clear to everyone for a long time, but perhaps he won't want to deceive Donald Trump, although he's done it more than once. But it's also clear that these strikes will not go unanswered, so that pathetic little man will definitely get what's coming to him. You know, there are several reasons why Putin will be very nervous in his bunkers in the near future. First, Peskov's statement. I'll start with him. Well, Peskov read Putin that Ukraine must withdraw troops not only from Donbass but also, and I quote, from Russian territory. This statement shows that the underground commander has finally just blasted off into space. I mean, he's not in this reality at all. In this sick logic, they demand to withdraw, troops not only from Donbass but also from the Kherson and Zaporizhia regions entirely. So Putin doesn't want to stop the war, or more accurately, he can't. He can't because not a single one of the goals set has been achieved. There is nothing to sell to the common people as a victory, no way to return the economy to a civilian track. Everything relies on defense orders. And also they don't know what to do with hundreds of thousands of simply unhinged Russians who will return with weapons and after a 3-month or 6-month bender will go to take the Kremlin. Donald Trump apparently has quietly withdrawn from the negotiation process. He has other problems right now. In the summer, he'll forget about us entirely. And by autumn, for the United States midterm elections, he probably won't even remember. He'll need a very quick victory, especially now against the backdrop of the situation with Iran. Maybe he'll try to get it in Cuba, but definitely not in the negotiation process here. And Putin will fight for exactly as long as he can, as long as the money lasts. But there are already problems with that. The Russian economy, is like a bicycle with a chain that's fallen off. That is, it's hurtling down a hill. You probably remember that feeling from childhood when you're flying down a hill on a bike and suddenly the pedals start spinning very easily and you get a chill down your spine. Well, in this case, Putin's economy hasn't just lost its chain. This bicycle is also on fire. Putin is desperately spinning his little legs in the air while trying to tell everyone how great the economy is and how he's testing some new weapon. The weakest link in Putin's war is money. So one of the key tasks now is to minimize the military budget of the Russian Federation by all possible means. And the armed forces of Ukraine are doing this successfully, increasing both the quantity and quality of strikes. Since the start of spring, 7 major oil refineries in Russia have stopped after our drone strikes. 7 major refineries. And it's clear that one of the priority targets is the ports. Meaning Putin can extract as much oil as he wants, but if there's no shipping, there's no sale, no money. Our drones don't forget about military plants either. So, breaking the supply chains for the military-industrial complex is also a very painful blow. And an important indicator, now several of them have appeared at once. Yesterday's news about Russians starting to withdraw deposits from banks en masse and the Russian government's pathetic attempts to calm them down. Like, no one is going to freeze your deposits. They even came out with an official statement. Calm down, Russians. Come on, don't withdraw them. The Russian state has either already dipped its hand into Russians' deposits, or it will happen in the near future. More than one economist is saying this, by the way, including Russian ones. Let's add the news that just a few days ago, the budget execution figures for the Russian Federation were classified. And this tells us that the military budget has already devoured or is finishing off the civilian one, meaning in Russia, everything our drones can reach must and will burn. Primarily port infrastructure, oil refineries, storage bases, oil pipelines, and gas pipelines. And believe me, there will be plenty of that now. At the same time, Ukraine has minimized its dependence on US aid and is moving to joint projects with Europe. And importantly, Europe continues to support us and will keep doing so in the future. In every sense, there's also a major plus, saying goodbye to Orban. Now this Trojan slug won't be putting a spoke in our wheels. And also, no one will be blocking anti-Russian sanctions anymore. There's still Fico, but I think he'll be dealt with. The fact that Putin's military leadership promised him to take Donbass by autumn, as the Financial Times reported yesterday, is another indicator that the bald ghoul has completely lost touch with reality. And the Russian General Staff is caught in its own lies trying to delay the inevitable. So Ukraine's strategy remains the same. We need to hold out for 1 day, 1 hour longer than the Russian Federation. So let's not panic. Let's help our defense forces in any way we can. And in every episode, we have an important fundraiser for Ukraine's defense forces. Today, we're starting a major fundraiser for 5 vehicles for the Active Operations Unit of the Main Intelligence Directorate, GUR, the Ferrata unit. They are the best of the best. The unit specializes in the most complex multi-level missions. Besides the sabotage and assault component and intelligence, FERRATA are also top-tier professionals in the use of all types of drones. And that includes maritime drones as well. There will be plenty of surprises for the Russians in the near future. The fighters have recorded a video message for you. Please have a listen.
Підрозділ активних дій ГУР Ferrata дякую Борису Тізенгаузену та його підписникам за допомогу, яку ви надаєте Збройним силам. І просить вас про підтримку наших зборів на автомобілі. Автомобілі – це важливо на фронті, це евакуація, це логістична підтримка наших підрозділів, це підвоз БК, провізії та дронів нашим хлопцям, які стримують ворога на фронті. Просимо вас підтримати наші збори, цінуємо вашу підтримку і допомогу. Слава Україні! Героям слава!
Let's help the GUR fighters. Fundraiser link is in the video description. There's Mono and PayPal for those who want to help from abroad. FERRATA fighters are those who can turn your hate into very real trouble for all the occupiers who barged onto our land. And also the mandatory QR code, it also leads to the fundraiser if you happen to be watching on another channel. Meanwhile, Putin was told that the Russian economy is already outpacing the US economy. This is not a joke, this is absolutely serious. The Russian economy has outpaced the American one in terms of growth rates. At a meeting with Putin, this was stated by the head of the Ministry of Economic Development, Maxim Reshetnikov. In short, Putin was shown some funny pictures again, colorful slides with diagrams and arrows. Reshetnikov slipped them to him. Putin, looking foolish, flipped through these pretty slides, while Reshetnikov told him that Russia's GDP per capita was 43% of the American one in 2017, and by 2025 it's almost 56. And Reshetnikov concludes, this shows that we weren't just growing in line, but were outpacing growth, including in the American economy. How do they do it? Just how do they do it? The IMF has different data. According to IMF data, for 2026, Russia ranks 66th in the world in GDP per capita between Trinidad and Tobago and the Seychelles. And I'll also remind you that the GDP of the entire Russian Federation is less than the GDP of the state of Texas. I'll remind you of this every single time. But this report, why I included this news in the episode, this report showed a very interesting and important thing, that most likely the military reports for Putin are about the same, maps that absolutely do not correspond to the situation at the front. Gerasimov's reports about Kupiansk, which on paper is fully under Russian control, but in fact has long been cleared of Russian occupiers. And Putin, who perhaps firmly believes that he'll take Donbass by autumn, relies on reports like these. He's already overtaken America. He's already just a little bit away from capturing Donbass by autumn. That's the kind of maps he relies on. Or maybe he's just a bit foolish, easy to deceive. He's always shouting, "We've been duped," and bulging his eyes like this. Everyone. Who else in this world hasn't duped Putin yet? Are there any such people left? And also, I came across some photos yesterday from the celebration of the May 9th. Maybe you've seen them before, but I only saw them yesterday. I simply have to show them to you. So, wipe your monitors with holy water, just in case, put an aspen stake next to you, and let's look at these photos. These are Russian singers and actors who actively support Putin. This is how they celebrated Victory Day. Can anyone tell me what this even is? Just look at this. Is it some kind of costume masquerade, dancing on graves, or how can this even be explained? They fought for Dolce and Gabbana. This is some kind of very heavy luxury. How can anyone even come up with all this? A day of mourning for millions killed in the war, and they put on luxury brands in military style, putting on these garrison caps. They have some kind of weird fetish with the garrison cap. I saw footage recently of Russians at a resort, totally wasted, crawling on the sand in their underwear and these garrison caps, celebrating May 9th, apparently. This is "we can do it again" in their version. Veterans who actually went through the war would never in their lives want to repeat it. But for them it is "we can do it again." Neither for themselves, nor children, nor grandchildren, nor great-grandchildren would any veteran ever wish to repeat what they went through. My great-grandmother repeated all her life, "If only there were no war, if only there were no war." I think yours did too, those who went through the war, but for them it is "we can do it again." A very strange disease, but for some reason it has spread to most of the nation. By the way, friends, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. You can do it right now. We are fighting Putin's propaganda here. Let's do it together. And by the way, have you noticed that no one even mentions the UN anymore? Is that right? I remember today. Know why? Because I came across a news story. Russians attacked UN humanitarian mission vehicles in Kherson with FPV drones. Quoting, "Today, during a humanitarian mission in Kherson, Russians twice attacked a UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs vehicle with FPV drones. And the Russians couldn't have not known which vehicle they were attacking. UN mission vehicles are very recognizable. I think you have seen them. White cars with huge blue letters saying UN all over them, including on the roof in the largest font specifically for the Russian imbeciles launching the drones. The head of the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs and several other staff members were in the vehicle. Fortunately, no one was hurt. The mission representatives were evacuated." There you go. Putin couldn't care less about all your attempts to negotiate with him, to tell him from the UN rostrum that you can't do that. Pressure, strike, transfer weapons, produce together, and just extinguish this Botox jellyfish until he starts screeching on ultrasound in his bunker. And in Russia, as you know, they passed a bill that allows Putin to use armed forces abroad to protect Russian citizens. The State Duma passed this bill in its second and third readings yesterday. I've talked about this before, but what's important is how the Duma commented on the bill's passage. MP Zhuravlyov has already stated that Russia could use special forces to rescue archaeologist Butyagin, who was detained in Poland. But Zhuravlyov said, well, it wasn't necessary, meaning since Butyagin was released, or rather, he was exchanged. And Zhuravlyov emphasized that Butyagin's case perfectly fits all the descriptions of this law. Russia could have easily used army special forces to free Butyagin. So, a Duma deputy is now officially stating that Russian army special forces could, in theory, actually fly into Poland on helicopters or something similar, pull out this Butyagin individual, and then proceed to do whatever else they might want to do. Now, I'd be very interested to see how the Russian Federation's army special forces would try to pull that off. Clearly, it's another intimidation tactic, but before attacking Ukraine, the Russians also threatened us periodically. But Zhuravlyov should really read some history, especially about the miracle on the Vistula in 1920, how Pilsudski crushed the Red Army. Back then, Poland essentially stopped the Red Army's expansion into Europe single-handedly. By the way, you won't read about this in Russian textbooks. They don't print such shameful moments, in their opinion, there. Russian textbooks are full of nothing but victories in every era. That's why Russians on the street say, no one has ever defeated Russia. Are you serious? Your history is just rewritten in such a stupid way. And one more piece of important news. In 6 months, Ukraine has doubled the number of destroyed Russian air defense systems. Our armed forces are conducting a real hunt for Russian air defense assets. Ukraine is increasing drone production and extending the range of its strikes, and this allowed us to take out twice as many Russian air defense systems in April as in October of last year. Der Spiegel is reporting on this. Basically, while 16 air defense systems, radars, and jamming devices were destroyed in the fall of 2023, there have already been 37 from March to May 10th of this year. So Ukraine is not only increasing the volume and range of strikes, but has also made significant progress in destroying Russian air defenses. By the way, experts have calculated a rough estimate for these 37 units, considering the diverse mix, several S-300 and S-400 components, Buk, Tor, Pantsir, and radars. In total, the Kremlin has lost about $1 billion, not including the cost of ammunition. In some areas, real gaps have opened up in the air defense system, which is exactly what allows our drones to fly as far as the Urals now. But it's not just about the money, 1 billion or 2 billion. The point is, under sanctions, Russians find it very, very hard to produce new air defense systems, and they're slow. Well, more precisely, they produce them much slower than our drones manage to destroy them. And here's another very telling piece of news. Members of the Taliban movement arrived in Russia today to participate in the Russia Islamic World Forum. Strategic negotiations and expanded cooperation with Russia are expected during the meeting. The delegation is led by the Minister of Commerce of the Taliban government. Well, people were worried that no one is friends with Russia, that no one came to Putin's parade except for the mothballed Politburo and who else? A couple of dictators. There you go, these are the new heights. And Putin firmly believes that he will capture Donbass by autumn. I have a feeling there's a big and very unpleasant surprise in store for him. As for you, take care of yourselves, take care of your loved ones, subscribe to this channel, don't forget, and let's help the GUR unit FERRATA. The link to the fundraiser is in the description of this video. Have a peaceful day, everyone, and glory to Ukraine.